And everybody, welcome to the snow-driven Friday, January 10th edition of the Arkansas Diamond Report. Got Dudley over there in Springdale, me here in Rogers, and I'm pretty safe to say that we're both snowed in right now.
Yeah, absolutely. This is not a picture of the outside of the back of my house right now. There's plenty of snow. Got a couple of puppies that go out there. One of them's about to get covered up when he goes out there because it's pretty interesting. It must be getting about time for baseball if snow's arrived. And actually, 2 weeks from today, Dave Van Horn's baseball team will take the field to start practice again for an opener on February 14th, the first of a four-game series against Washington State.
Man, I'm tell you, um, yeah, it seems like whenever we get that first snow, we're within 3 to 5 weeks away from baseball. It seems like it every year. It seems like just that first part of January, we get that snow, and then time to go outside.
Yeah. Well, I went outside yesterday. Not sure how much more I'll go outside this weekend because I had to go run out with thousands of other people and get groceries, firewood, that, and everybody I guess thought that was a good idea to do. And also, schools were getting out at the same time, so it was a fun little drive that usually takes about 5 minutes to close to an hour. Uh, just goes to backed up traffic and all that. But as we said. Baseball season means cold, and then it'll get better. And softball season, will be here February 6th. But the first three tournaments they play out of state and in warmer climates, or what it will thought to be warmer climates at that time.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, man. Right now, it's coming down with some chunky snow up here in Rogers. I'm not sure what it's doing down there over in Springdale, but man, I'm gonna tell you what, it's definitely covered up, and it's
We got winter,
still
winter
coming down.
working down here too, with a lot of snow coming down as well.
Speaking of coming down, making it rain, really, that was Izzy Higginbottom last night. Good Lord, 36 points, winning free throws at the end of the game after really a kind of a dreadful first quarter for Arkansas. And Coach Neighbors and them, they were able to come back and win that on the road.
Yeah, and you gotta give credit where credit's due. They came out after that first quarter, made some adjustments defensively. It looked like, and also, anytime you have a player that can go on an 11-0 run by herself, it helps. Izzy Higginbuckets got him
I like
back
that.
in the game, and then got him over the finish line. Kiki Smith made a big basket, and while the other players did not score many points, they did score points at key times. They're late, and obviously the foul call at the end there was not what Johnny Taylor, Auburn's head coach, or Auburn's fans wanted, but it was clearly a foul you see called in high school, college, and the NBA every day. If you establish position, you get knocked over. That's usually how it happens. How in the world they allowed her to get that far, is unbelievable. And she was the focus point of their defense. Still got 36. I think he ended up 13 of 20 from the field overall. Missed a couple of free throws. She's so automatic. When she missed that first one, I thought, I'd take a bet. There's no way she'd miss that second one. Obviously, got it to go in. Auburn had a shot in, but big win for them, and you could see the relief on their faces in the post game press conference. And congratulations! And now you get to welcome Tennessee, who almost knocked off LSU last night, but LSU got an 89-87 win. So it gets no easier in the SEC. Although after this start, it does, get into what I think you would call some more winnable games. That's what I was describing last night too. Is when
Yeah,
people was asking me how should Arkansas do tonight. I said this is one of the winnable games, and they ended up doing it there at the end.
yeah, they were. They shot 45% from the field. They did force 22 turnovers. They did lose the rebounding battle by 10, but I mean, at this point, whenever you're on a skid like Arkansas has been, you're going to pretty much take anything you can get at this point just to find some traction and get some good karma in your way and good, some positive vibes. I feel like they were able to do that last night. I mean, they're I know that we've talked about the bench a little bit. The bench, they had 10 points, and I know that Auburn was a little short last night. I know that Talia Scott's battling a wrist injury. She wasn't. I don't think she's played with the last 11 games. I think
10, last 10.
ten.
She's started the first 3 ball games, then got the wrist hurt, averaging 20 points, which would be second on the team. Uh, what I guess is second on the team. You just, it's not counting again in the SEC race as it was last year for her. She's gone through some, family medical issues and been injured. You hate it for the little girl because she's a phenomenal player, as evidenced by the fact in those 3 games she's played, she's 16 of 32 from 3-point range during those games.
Jeez, that's crazy being 50%. Also, real quick, Michael Kepsky, he is from coming in from Tupelo, Mississippi. He also jumps on with Otis and I too. Said that it snowed heavily, but good in Tupelo, surrounded by Ole Miss fans that want him to jump ship. He just can't do it.
Go by Elvis's old house and tell him we said hi. I like going to visit that place down there in Tupelo. One of the things I like to do. But yeah, it's been a wild ride for Ole Miss this year. Looked like a contender that was going to get in the top 12 and be part of that playoff, but didn't make it. But certainly showed up to play in their bowl game. So yeah, and obviously they're doing a great job recruiting Arkansas players.
So I do have a good a comment from Michael that I do want to bring up, and I think this kind of points towards more of the baseball side that we were talking about at the first a few minutes ago. What does a possible projected starting 9 look like for DVH coming out of the gates?
Well, obviously when we start on, maybe not start 9, but when you've got 3 pitchers that are first and second team All-Americans, there are likely going to be 3 of your starters, if not your weekend rotation for sure.
Mm-hmm.
That's a great place to start. They had a good pitching staff. They had 1 great pitcher and 2 that pitched okay at times last year. Both of them struggled with getting innings and walks and having people on base. Could the staff be better? I think probably it could this year. Now you're obviously going to with your starting 9, you're obviously going to have B. Aloy at shortstop. I think that's a given. I think you have Brent Iredale, the junior college transfer, who hit 50 home runs over the course of the last 2 years in junior college. I think he's going to get the start at third base. So that's going to be that side of the infield there. Be surprised if Nolan Souza doesn't start at second. He had several good moments in fall scrimmages and obviously got off like a house fire last year, then kind of cooled off. Look this fall, he was going to be able to hit both sides, both arms on the pitching mound. The first base could be Little Loy, V's younger brother, and obviously you know who your catcher is going to be. He said he had a great fall. And then in the outfield, there's a lot of different choices out there.
There are.
Thomas in center field. Holly is the best defensively, but you got a lot of hitters out there, including Brendan Clark, freshman, that we're going to play anyway. And obviously, one of these many spots, be it right field, first base, designated hitter, is going to be there for the return of Kendall Diggs, who should be, I'm told, ready to go and practice January 24th.
With the way that Ryder Helfrich's bat kind of livened up over summer ball and also with fall ball, is there a place that he might be able to crack into just to get that bat in the lineup?
He's good. He's definitely going to catch most of the games, obviously, but I think they'll use him some as a designated hitter. I think he'll be used a lot like Yadi Molina, getting a lot of time behind the plate. I meant Wilson Contreras, actually, who's he can play some first base, play some other positions. He's very athletic. He certainly was running a lot on the base passes. The entire team was during the fall. His bat will be in that lineup and will be at the top because of the way that he's got power and he hits for average. And amazingly, a lot of times he was bunting this fall to try to use that speed. So I think that's going to be another aspect we see from him.
Mm-hmm.
More base running, more hit and runs from this team this year.
And I don't like to make a lot of comparisons, but I feel like this might be fairly close with the way that Ryder Helfrich his bat's starting to come alive, and also with his speed. I see him a lot like an Adley Rutschman that was at Oregon State. He's catcher now for the Orioles. I feel like that's a pretty fair comparison at this point.
Yeah, I think that's really good. Obviously, James McCann was his backup last year. The last note, James was still a free agent, and Baltimore had signed another backup catcher, so it'll be interesting to see where he lands. I'm sure that we'll
Mhm.
hear about that pretty soon. It's less than a month before they're at spring training now, so I'm sure he'll be on a roster somewhere. And he's always been, no matter where he's at, New York Mets, wherever, always been a quality catcher, whether it be as a starter or backup, and obviously one of the better players to ever play here.
Well, I want to kind of turn the page on this for just a few moments. I want to talk a little bit of more some Razorback football with you. Otis and I, we were talking a lot about roster and how that's looking as far as the portal goes. It's starting to kind of cool down a little bit. I know that there's a spot on the defensive side of the football that Sam Pittman's really kind of having to search for a new assistant for. Um, so he's kind of playing this one close to the vest, a little bit closer than he has usually. Um, I don't know if you any idea of maybe you would like to see that would step into this secondary, maybe somebody with some Arkansas ties.
It's you always, and I think those of us who were born in Arkansas and been around Arkansas our lives, you'd like to see guys that have played here get an opportunity. Defensive back wise, I'd have to really take a look at who's out there right now that with Arkansas ties. I hadn't really focused on that too much. Got back from Denver this week, as you know,
Mm-hmm.
and jumped back into women's basketball. And we'll check in on football and other stuff today and tomorrow. But it would be good, I think, especially because there's not a lot of Arkansas ties on there, and you'd like to have that. And you hear that from fans. At the same time, his task has to be getting the best defensive back coach he can in here. And I think they 4 or 5 different defensive backs they've signed now. So they loaded up a defensive back and wide receiver. I think it's 11 defensive players, 8 offensive players, something like that. And so got to get you 1 or 2 more tight ends. And as Otis's article mentioned the other day, there's a variety of positions you still want to get. And I do believe I'm correct in saying that there's going to have to, if you're going to bring that many more players in there, there's going to have to be some that are not going to be here at the start of school next week or after spring football after the spring semester.
Yep, because once they enter the spring semester, they're locked up for a while. So, I mean, if anything, they're going to have to go through off season and then spring ball, and then if they're going to transfer out. Which I think Otis has talked about. He seems to think that there might be a couple that might be out, making their way towards what they would consider greener pastures, maybe. But at this point, I think it's almost pretty well locked in as far as what they have on the roster for the moment.
Yeah, and it's they'll get back to school next week. It won't be long before they'll be in spring football. A couple of months. It'll be interesting to see what this new team looks like, and we're going to be able to say that every year with the way the transfer portal is. Obviously, they got to sign some high school kids and junior college kids as well. You're going to have 40 plus new players on this team. Maybe not the 60 that BYU had, a couple of years ago with the spin
Yeah.
around, and obviously, we all know it's going to be another contract year, for Coach Pittman and the staff. What a brutal schedule. As I watched Notre Dame and Penn State last night, and I've got
Hell
to
of a
admit,
game too.
I'm rooting for Penn State a little bit, not because of animosity towards Notre Dame, but my grandson has 2 uncles that played at Penn State, so since side of the family was rooting for Penn State. We trying to be good in-laws.
Man, oh, real quick, let's go back to baseball for just a minute. Michael Kepsky's asking, where does Logan Maxwell, Justin Thomas, and Rocco Pepe fit?
Might be the outfield. That just might be the outfield right there. Logan Maxwell started slow in the fall, but really came on. Rocco Pepe had an injury toward the end, but also hit well. And then Justin Thomas, uh, again, was a guy who kind of started slow with the bat, but he makes a lot of plays out there in the outfield. Those three guys, Charles Davelin, will be another guy that will be out there. They've got a lot of more versatile parts than they used to. They were picking and plugging in that outfield last year after it being a big strength the year before. But I think it's going to be one again, and I think you can see it anywhere from 5 to 6 guys. Whoever's hitting is going to be out there. I think defensively they're all pretty much even, except Thomas being just a little bit better. Maxwell obviously has played in big games before coming from TCU and all that. But they are, I guess, ranked 13th in perfect game. I'm sure Baseball America, and then we'll release uh, their rankings for too long. As we said, it's just around the corner.
It is. You know, I want to look back for just a minute. I want to kind of pick your brain here. I know that Dave was trying to really kind of balance the scale on how much to use the starting pitchers during the season, early part of the season, middle part of the season, to have enough availability to reach the end of the season and to postseason play. Do you think that is there a possibility there might be a philosophical change a little bit on how he's using those starting pitchers
I think
going into the season?
he will tell us that because that'll be one of the questions asked in his press conference leading up to practice that I'm sure we'll have in maybe 12 to 13 days. But I think that's certainly a valid question because while they have had very good records in the SEC the last 2 years, getting into the tournament, pitching wise, they haven't been strong. Other than obviously the the outings by the new Chicago White Sox starter. I'm sure there's going to be out there with him this year. I think they're going to bring him on up in Hagen Smith.
Hmm.
But you really were running on fumes there last year at the end during tournament play, postseason tournament. 2 years in a row you haven't gotten out of regional at your place. That has got to be. You have to look at ways to be ready to go then. And that's one of the things that I'm sure that they focused on this offseason, whether it be conditioning, or whether it be the the division of innings and how you go about things. But it wasn't, I don't think, because the other two weekend starters were tired last year. They just were not sharp at the end.
Yeah, I feel like there was like a moment there in April, like that first weekend, second weekend in April, where Brady Tigert and Mason Molina, I don't know, for some odd reason, it feels like they hit a wall as far as location went. And it just kept spiraling the further it went. And Dave tried to give him a weekend off. I know Kentucky, Mason Molina didn't pitch. And then he was trying, and then I know that Brady Tiger kind of trying to manage his time with him coming off of injury. Um,
And one other guy that before we get, we mentioned the three guys, Landon Beetlejuice as as the colleague who came from Ohio State, Zach Root, obviously. East Carolina, Aiden Jimenez did not pitch in the fall. It was an arm injury that he had before Oregon State season next year. While he wasn't listed on that All American list, he's somebody that's going to be what they think is another strong pitcher for them. And then you've got the other guys that have been here. And, the bullpen, I don't know how it's going to play out with who's at the end, but you've got some candidates there that are really good. I think it's a better pitching staff going into the season. If they all stay healthy, overall, a better pitching staff, especially when you can bring a kid, Carson Wiggins,
yeah,
out of the bullpen throwing 101. You know,
that's a see. That's the thing too. Dave also had that last year, and I wonder if he's going to try to utilize that a little bit more, just so that way that he can kind of save some arms, get him some quality innings, good 5 innings if he can get that out of the starters, but then also be able to use that rotation on the back end where you're able to plug some guys in on a Friday, a Saturday, or a Sunday. so that way you're not having to try to piecemeal something at the end of April, first part of May.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see who those first four starters are. You had some guys that were injured last year that were good at the first of the year that will have the opportunities to get back in there. But those young guys are going to push them. He got a plethora of options, a lot more than it seemed to have last year. And now it's just going to be about finding them the roles. I think that Gabe Gackle is going to be handed the ball probably the first game, and then they'll go from there. But the other guys we've mentioned, they'll all start filling into the roles, and certainly, I think it's 8 games in the first 2 weeks. The 4 with Washington State at home, the Arlington trip, and one with Grambling, all shoved into those 2 weekends. So or two weeks of first place. So you're going to get the opportunity to see a lot of these arms early on and see maybe where they fit.
Yep. I think that's going to be fun to see. I know that Coach Deifel, she's going to be available to the press here pretty soon as well. I know that you were talking about that they've got their first softball trip less than a month away. Have you looked at their schedules, or not schedule, but the roster yet? Who might be that number one starter for Coach Deifel this year?
Well, I think she's going to have several options. Obviously, had some coming back. He brought in a couple of All-Americans, or 3 All-American freshmen. Peyton Burnham is being one of them from Oregon. It is a roster that once again, I realize what I'm saying. I would like to say it because it can come back to haunt me, but I believe that's a better pitching staff, a better roster than they had last year.
Mm-hmm.
And they had the number 5 recruiting class in the country. That's back to back. I think top 5 recruiting classes. And while there were a lot of players that they contributed to this team that they're not with them anymore, there is a lot more that are back, and that roster has been added to with some quality individuals. And they are absolutely mining the Houston area softball recruiting down there. They've done a great job at getting those youngsters. And again, I'm looking forward. My wife knows I have a crush on Bree Ellis.
Yeah.
Quote master. I love that.
I think it's really key also getting Italia Rio back. She missed most of last year, and maybe not so much for the bat, but it's her defense at shortstop and wherever she can play this year, because I feel like as Courtney brings in new talent, I feel like some of those spots kind of get shifted a little bit, and maybe where like say for instance, one player might be this year or last year might be different because they fit maybe better with the scheme of what she has.
Yeah, and that's in the versatility that I talked about. I think is another thing they have. It's going to start batting wise with Reagan Johnson, who can turn a dribbler back to the pitcher into an
Good Lord, she's fast too.
It has great speed, and that there's several on the team this year that are going to steal a lot of bases. We saw that during the fall scrimmages that I went to, and it is a loaded schedule again. Like I said, they play tournaments the first 4 weeks, first 3 on the road in warmer climates. But it should be fun. We'll clear all the snow out of here hopefully this month, and first part of next month, and then February 14th for the baseball team, and I think it's February 29th is actually the opening. Is it a leap year? I forget. It's the last day of February is when the first the women's softball home opener.
Let's see here. Let's look at that real quick. Yep, Bogle Park, Iowa, 3:00. First home game.
It'll be fun. It's 3:00 also for the men, as we're saying on that at Valentine's Day. We'll be making other plans 13th or 15th, I guess.
Yeah.
Probably
busy.
Since there's another 3 games behind there.
Yeah. Well, Dudley, man, I'm gonna get you out of here. Again, glad to see you back from Denver. Hey, little bit, real quick. What's it like seeing Jokic play live?
Wish I'd have got to. He was out that night.
Oh, that's right. He was out.
One of the him and Derek White were out for the Celtics. I have gotten to see him play when I've gone up there before. He is, you can argue night and day who's the best shooter and who's the best player overall, but he is a joy to watch, and he's a tremendous player. He makes those around him better. I talk a lot with Scott Hastings, who I visited with. The trip up there. He's the color analysis guy for the Nuggets on TV now, and we're just, both of us are just amazed at what he can do with the basketball, how versatile he is, and what a great player he was. And I love for the Celtics to win, but I would like for them to have been at full strength. It was pretty interesting. There are a lot of Russell Westbrook jerseys, there in Denver, and my wife, who doesn't follow the NBA as close as I do. The other teams, at least, she does a good job with the Celtics. Couldn't believe he was there now. I mean, it's like 16 to 6 years or something. So,
yeah,
it's a great player, and Jamal Murray too is just unguardable.
He is. He is. Also, want to say, anybody that's been affected by the wildfires there in Los Angeles, thoughts and prayers go out to them, and everybody trying to stay safe as much as they can. I know that the Lakers game that was postponed. They've moved the Vikings Rams game to Glendale for this weekend as well. At this point, I just hope that everybody's able to stay safe and what they can save, try to get out of there, and then what you're not able to, and hopefully rebuild soon.
Yeah, 2025 has roared in here with a lot of different tragedies and incidents. Hopefully that'll slow down because enough already. It's not even, what's the 10th today?
Yeah.
Slow down 2025.
We're 10 days in, and it's like, oof. Cal, like what Cal had talked about after the Arkansas win against over Michigan. Woof. It's exactly what 2025 has been so far. Woof.
Absolutely.
Well, Dudley, take care, my guy, and we will see you all next week at 10:30 for the Arkansas Diamond Report. For Dudley, Jason, y'all take care. Go Hogs.